Suppose you were magically transported to a spot in Texas. Your first impression would be remarkably diverse depending on where you land. You would be in one of 10 large but distinctly different ecoregions. If you're in South Texas, you might conclude that it's a land of dry desolation where every scraggly shrub is armed with vicious thorns. A more rugged country is hard to imagine. How could anything live here? But closer looks reveal a complex and varied environment filled with animals and plants found nowhere else north of Mexico. Besides birds, you'll find some of North America's strangest and most interesting plants, reptiles, and insects. The other Texas ecoregions offer similarly unexpected wild things to excite and delight you. The natural world of Texas is what this podcast is all about. We're Robert and Karen Benson. We select or write all material for each podcast episode and produce the audio that makes it possible. We hope you'll learn something new each time you listen. Most of all, we hope you'll enjoy what you hear. Here is Red Pop, Green Pop. Written by Karen L. P. Benson.
If you haven't seen a painted bunting, you probably have seen a photo. Painted buntings are the quintessential calendar bird. This avian jewel is, without a doubt, Texas' most colorful bird. Its striking blue heads, red eye-ring, vivid red underparts, and lime green back make them almost gaudy. You'd think they would stand out like sore thumbs. But surprisingly, they are often hard to see. Hard to see? How can this be? In some light, the colors themselves may be deceptive. The rich purple blue of the head is the color of shadows, and the lime green of the back is the exact shade of sunlight on a fresh green leaf. In addition, there is the concept of disruptive coloration. The human eye sees each block of color on the bird as a distinct shape. So when you first glimpse a painted bunting, you see a blue circle, a lime green oblong, and a red crescent. Initially, these shapes don't register in the brain like a bird outline, so you don't recognize them as birds. This momentary disruption of the bird outline is a kind of camouflage. This camouflage is even more effective when embedded in a tree's sunny leaves and shadows. Fortunately for birders, male painted buntings prefer to sing from an exposed branch or treetop. With patience, you can get a good look at him. It helps to know the song to pinpoint him by ear until your eye picks him out. The song is a simple, reedy warble that is easily recognized once you've heard it a few times. Listen to this male singing from the top of a fence post. Several times I have observed a painted bunting singing from a power line. He was easy to see out in the open like that, even with his disruptive coloration. Oddly, I once saw an all-green bird singing the painted bunting song. Female painted buntings do not sing, so this had to be a young male. The female and young male painted buntings are leaf green. It takes newly fledged male painted buntings several molts, over 2 years, to acquire the bright adult colors. What could be the advantage of a male looking like a female? Researchers have postulated that young males are mature enough to breed but don't have many opportunities. The stronger territory-holding males are not aggressive toward young green males because they look like females. These, greenies, can sneak into an older male's territory and form a temporary liaison with the multicolored male's mate. Thus, a first-year male gets a head start on breeding. Plus, the hardworking and unwitting older male ends up raising the intruder's offspring for him. Our grandparents called painted buntings wild canaries. Indeed, in the 1800s, the buntings were kept as cage birds for a while. Like canaries, they can subsist on a diet of seeds. Nestlings require protein-rich insects for growth, however. And like canaries, their songs are pleasing and their colors brilliant. So, It is not surprising that painted buntings were offered for sale in some large city markets. Trappers most often captured young birds just off the nest. Enterprising vendors usually didn't want to keep the birds until their adult plumage was attained, so they offered them as pups. When your new pet molted, you either had a red pop or a green pop, depending on the sex of the bird. There must have been a certain thrill in the waiting and the surprise. This experience must have been an entertaining pastime for the well-to-do in the slower-paced world of the 19th century. But it isn't possible to have a caged painted bunting today, and keeping native wild birds in captivity is not legal in this country. Since 1965, the breeding bird surveys have shown a steady decline in painted bunting populations in the U.S. Habitat loss seems to be the primary reason for the number drop, particularly in the East Coast populations. In Texas, however, the reason for the decline is less apparent. Graduate student Stephanie Prosser completed a study of the painted bunting populations in San Patricio County. Her findings indicated that the buntings preferred a habitat rich in mesquite trees and that the birds are generally thriving in South Texas. Her surveys led her to estimate a population of over 800,000 breeding pairs in the Texas Gulf Coast region. Aren't we lucky to live in an area where these gorgeous painted buntings make their home?